Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Catholic Narcissist Recovery. We're here on a mission to help you reclaim your life after narcissistic abuse. And we're excited to be joined with Dr. Jameson Natwick to help us with another question. Today, we're going to be focusing on what's going on inside the brain of a narcissist. Jameson, can you shed us some light on this perplexing question?
You know, like what's going on in the brain of a narcissist right away comes up to me as like we're trying to like gain understanding of like if I could get inside their head, like are they thinking differently? Are they like intentionally being like, oh, I know this is gonna hurt? And I think this is a question that we have for a lot of like it's not just narcissists. I've had parents who have autistic children ask me like how are they thinking? Like what's going on with them? And I think what this is bringing up is there is this awareness of they're functioning and processing differently. And I will first, I need to humble myself and realize that I am no um, neuroscientist or neurologist or like have studied this, but I want to highlight a few things that I think would be helpful, which first want to reflect back on understanding what the pathology of narcissism is, which is again, it is that we're having that absence of empathy, so we're not looking out to reconnect and understand the experiences of others. And there is this need for admiration, to be the center of attention, to be up in like higher like these hierarchies and to have status. And if you think about it, that's going to alter the way that they perceive and understand the world around them. So let's get some examples that for the most part, most individuals are going to be what I would call inward focused. We're going to assess our own behaviors, our statements, our desire to fit into a group. So maybe after this, right away, I'm going to start thinking like, oh, I should have explained that differently. Or, oh, like, why did I say that? I think I said too many times. And I get critical of myself. I'm evaluating myself. Narcissists flip it. They're outward focused. So if I were to like from a narcissistic perspective, if a recording here didn't go well, Veronica, instead of me trying to take ownership and see what I could have done well, I would beat you up. Veronica didn't ask the question correctly, or this isn't the right format for me to express my thoughts. So there would be this: I'm not the problem, the world is the problem. And that's the way that they're going to approach situations, is that ability to be reflective and humble is absent in a way. um, and they're not able to do that. So I want to pause there and see if you have any reflections or questions or insights of your own.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's pretty crazy to think that rather than taking ownership, someone just wants to blame you for it instead. And I think it just really strikes a chord, like thinking back and reflecting on my own personal experiences. And I'm sure maybe our listeners also might feel a little bit triggered. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that instance when that narcissist did that thing, and totally they were blaming me for it when it was completely irrational. Um, One other thing that kind of comes to mind here, it's a slight tangent, but I think what this topic brings up for me is the need to know and understand. It's like you said, like we want to know, like if I just understood what's going on in the brain, then I can understand what's going on and why they're acting this way. And if we're looking at this from a spiritual lens, like sometimes we will not understand. And that need for knowledge is not going to be fulfilled. And we actually need to surrender the need to know. Because I think knowledge can be great. It can lead to awareness. It can help us, improve. It can help us understand the situation. But at the same time, if we're sensing or seeking so much knowledge all the time, it can be a form of a coping mechanism of looking for control. Because the more we understand something, then we can control the situation. And you sometimes can't. So yeah, I just wanted to, that's what kind of came up to me. Is like the need to know is good, but sometimes you're going to reach that endpoint where you can't know. You actually will not know why. And at that point, you need to surrender it. And you need just to surrender the need to know, because you're not going to be able to control the situation.
Yeah, I think a question like when people, because I think a lot of times when like with really heavy topics, when people want to be like, well, what's going on, how like, and it's very knowledge focused. The question is like, well, what do you do with that information now? Because just because you know it doesn't mean you're going to be free of it. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to use this, but it's not going to transform my life. There's other things that need to be brought in, like our emotions, our spiritual life, how we're going to respond to things. And I think you're right. Like if we seek knowledge just to control, it actually will get us more tangled up in a narcissistic relationship. Because
Yeah,
then it's almost like you're trying to beat a narcissist at their own game. Like, oh, I know what's going on. And that's a really dangerous thing. I would not recommend it because it's like, it's just can be very damaging. But it is helpful to be like, okay, they do process the world. And the reason they process this world, going back to our psychopathology episode, is that if deep down they have this extremely fragile and insecure like self-identity, the way their brain is working is to protect it at all costs, which means the world will always be the problem, people will always be the problem. And I think that is important to know, because then it's like, all right, I now need to respond to that I need to set boundaries, or I need to make choices that help me not to get caught up in that, because that is what narcissists are so good at, and they will beat you every time at that game.
Yeah.
So it's about learning, all right, I can't play that game. I have to respond to that differently.
Totally. Is there something like actually different in their brain or in their nervous system?
Yeah. There is evidence. Yes, there are slight differences. And this is common across all psychopathology, that the brains just function differently when there is a disorder going through it. So
yeah, makes sense. One more thing I just want to say to our listeners is the Surrender Novena. Very powerful. I'll link it below. It's a prayer, a 9-day prayer to just help kind of surrender the need to know, and to surrender when our suffering just seems like it's nonsensical. So very powerful prayer. I'll link that below. Thanks, Dr. James Natwick. Anything else? What's going on inside the brain of a narcissist?
I think we're good.
All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for listening. I'm so excited you joined us. Are you ready to take the next step? Head on over to our website, catholicnarcrecovery.com, and join us for weekly community gatherings. We also have some awesome healing resources on there too. Remember, God loves you and God is in control, not the narcissist. God bless.